Morning. I want to start by going to this web page and then showing some slides of the event that I attended in Las Vegas. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be able to get the whole. Anyway, I don't think I can click on it to make just the one big screen of the slides, but let's see what I can get from the web page. These are all just pictures. If you could turn the lights off. These are all pictures. This was the stage, and especially we had a very good band. And we were all in this huge hall, and you can see Dr. Michael Balcom and his wife were there. Dr. Jenkins and his wife were there, and Bishop Kim. These are just different images of the singing. We had several presentations every day, and of course we were singing a lot. Some of the younger generation, and then this Eric Silty. I think that's not Damien, is it?
I think it is.
That's Damien, and it's a couple, a lot of pictures of singing, huh? It's because there was a lot of singing going on. We saw some video presentations. Of course, Dr. Balcom was able to share things about history. There's Clint Woods, works with True World Foods, lives in Seattle. Known him since the 1970s. We all had a chance to get on stage and share different things, different groups. We basically got into groups based on our districts. And this is people imitating a certain animal according to the year that we were born. If you were the year of the horse or the year of the rat, then we had to get on stage and make those sounds. So the idea was, loosen people up. This is Damien Dinkley, and especially most of the presentations were done from the second gen, from the office headquarters. There's me and moving too fast. Most of the people that were, the young lady on the left is Robert Kittle from Nepal. It's his daughter. And she gave a presentation about tribal messiahship in Nepal. And then this is at the house that the True Parents owned. And we were, this is the back of the house. We were in the backyard, and we had one evening where we went there and we had a very beautiful dinner. And different types of entertainment. Drank lots of wine. Oh, wait, it was apple juice and toast. This particular house is where True Parents lived while they were in Las Vegas. And for up until recently, True Mother was living there also, but she doesn't live there anymore. She turned the house over to be used by CARP members and by various organizations in our church. And it's used for Sunday service because the IPEC building, the building where we were having the conference, isn't zoned to be a church. You cannot have church services there. You can have conferences and you can have people sleeping there, etc. But it's in an industrial area. So these are images of the back of the house. So True Mother does not live in this house anymore. If she comes to Las Vegas, she stays in a room in the IPEC Center, which is, the front of it is a very beautiful kind of temple type of building, and then the back of it was previously all different types of, what's the word? Square buildings for storage. And those were turned into hotel-style rooms. So the IPEC Center has approximately 50 plus hotel-style rooms, very beautiful rooms. Okay, it's like going into a very nice hotel. The showers and the beds and everything, the rooms are very beautiful. You have the special key that opens and closes the door like a normal hotel. And here we are back in the main center. More singing, every day, of course, singing. Oh wait, did we start again? Okay. We made it cycle. All right. Okay, maybe we can have the lights. I feel Sharon, can you have the lights? I'm going to explain the topic, believe in the did, in a few minutes. But first I wanted to say, the reason I wanted to show these slides is I know since I came back from Las Vegas, I haven't really shared a lot about this conference, and there's different reasons for that. I wasn't, so many things happened. I flew in the morning, and then we went to Mooresville to spend time with Carl and Hasaye, and then came back the next morning, and we're here. And also, I wanted time to reflect on the content. Mostly in the beginning, the content that we were sharing with each other was content about personal growth. We had different types of examples of, like, for example, we did a special marriage, like a marriage exercise. We were introduced to a special program that any of us can put on where husband and wife are encouraged to participate in a special date night. And they go to a member's home or something, and everything is set up for them, and they do 8 different date nights. And in the process, they also are given an opportunity to talk with each other about very specific topics. And the topics are designed and created to help them to communicate with each other in a way that is kind of a little bit more frank and more honest than maybe they would normally communicate. So the purpose is to encourage and help make the marriage stronger. And this was a program that was created by someone outside of our movement. And also we heard many testimonies about different places. One of the Korean leaders from Central America, which involves 21 different nations, like all of these different islands, Puerto Rico and and Cuba and these Central American places, and he was reporting about how they are going out to witness to try to bring the 430 people for their tribes. And we heard a very wonderful testimony from Robert Kittle's daughter. I don't know her name. She was she was there, and she gave a very in-depth testimony with slides about Nepal. Nepal is a very unusual country. Nepal is at the foot of the Himalayan mountains, and the history of Nepal is very spiritual. There are so many spiritual groups, and the people of Nepal, evidently, based on what I was able to gather and understand, are very pure, very innocent. You could even use the word naive, concerning the ways of the world. They have been very protected from so many of the things that Western civilization has been influenced by. You know, you're not going to go to Nepal and find a pharmacy on every corner of the place. The people are, you know, pornography and issues of decadence, and doesn't seem to be an issue with the people there. They live a very simple and very pure life. And as a result of that, when our members went to teach them and educate them about the meaning of the blessing, about the idea of being blessed by, they don't even teach about Reverend Moon being the Messiah. They teach about family values. They approach everything from the viewpoint of, would you like your family to become stronger and better and greater? And then they begin to explain about things like, you know, the spiritual fall and things that took place in history and why people have this fallen nature and why maybe your family isn't as good as it should be. And then they begin to explain about the process of the 40-day separation, how husband and wife would be separated from each other for 40 days to purify their relationship. Then they would go through the 3-day ceremony and explanation. And the striking, you know, the holy, what do we call it?
Indemnity stick.
Indemnity stick, thank you very much. Little brain. Indemnity stick. And they have witnessed, and they are having an incredible success in bringing thousands of families and couples, and even sometimes new people that are going to get married that want to, you know, now participate in the matching. And they are being very, very successful in bringing thousands and thousands of people to go through this entire process of the blessing and rebirth and the marriage ceremony. So I thought this was very illuminating and very inspiring on one level. But then understanding the nature of, what are they called? Nepalese? The people of Nepal? Nepalese people. And then thinking about here in America, especially having just returned from the previous conference that I attended, you know, in Greensboro, all about the issues of pornography and the flood in the public mind and how it's affecting the very nature of our relationships with each other. And then we're thinking, how can we duplicate what's going on in a country like Nepal? Can we expect here in America to have the same result if we have the same approach? And that is the question that honestly many of our members and the staff there are wrestling with. There was, in this conference, I'll be very honest with you, there was this underlying undertone of, is this going to be just another, you know, yay, yay, pow, you know, let's rev them up, you know, bring them to the conference, let's get them really going. Okay, now go out and do it. You know, like taking one of those toys that you and then you let it go, you know, like this. And I have to be honest with you, you know, because I'm your pastor and I'm nobody special, and I felt near the end it became like that. At the end of the conference, the bottom line was every region had a regional leader there, and we stood up and we made a proclamation that by September 18th of this year, we will pledge to bring a certain number of people to Washington, D.C. to participate in the 40-year anniversary recognition of Father's victory at Washington Monument. Now, having said that, I do believe and I do feel deep in my heart that there is a very sincere effort by all of our brothers and sisters, all of these I showed you the slides, all of the second gen, and Dr. Balcom and his wife, and Mike Jenkins and his wife aren't directly involved anymore. He works with finances and things. Bishop Kim was there. He gave some talks and some testimony about the history of Father working in America. We talked a lot about Yankee Stadium and Washington Monument. When we had Hundaké in the morning, we read the Yankee Stadium speech that Father gave. Then the next day we read the Washington Monument speech that Father gave in America, because this is the 40-year anniversary of these events. And one thing that Bishop Kim pointed out is that only 2 times does he recall that Father ever said that he really was afraid for his own life, or really so nervous or so beside himself about something being done for God's providence. Father described, when Father talked about, Washington Monument campaign, if you read one of Father's speeches, he talks about how he felt like a prisoner who had been sentenced to death and was now walking out to the gallows to be executed. Father felt that way before he walked out on the stage of Washington Monument, because in Father's mind, whether this was a victory or a defeat, whether the people came or they didn't come, was going to determine the fate of the world. And so Father felt that way. And Bishop Kim said only 2 times has Father ever expressed that kind of seriousness. The other time was in 1960, at the blessing itself. Father describes how even on the day of the blessing in Korea, he was being taken to the police station and interrogated about his church. Even when he was giving the blessing to the 36 couple, he gave it 12 at a time, and then he'd go back and forth, and there were parents that were protesting, and it was a very difficult situation. And Father really, was nervous for his life. The Father describes the same thing for the Yankee Stadium and Washington Monument, how serious those moments were in his life. So that, that touched me also. It reminded me of these events. So I really feel it is true. There is going to be a special celebration, memorial event, September 18th in Washington, D.C. at the Lincoln Memorial. And I believe it can be an opportunity for us to do something for for North Carolina. We can bring, a bus or some buses or many bus loads of people to go to a one-day special celebration in Washington, to go to the Lincoln Memorial. In the same way, when we were doing the Washington Monument campaign, and I was there in Philadelphia with Reverend Vincennes, working for this campaign, it wasn't just, we want to bring you to this religious, we got to hear Reverend Moon speak. It was a day event that we were bringing people an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and to spend time to celebrate, the 200-year anniversary of America. And it was an all-day event that took place. And there was lots of entertainment. And then, eventually Father came out and he spoke. And then there was this incredible fireworks display. Anybody was there? This incredible, we spent millions of dollars. And there were fireworks that were brought from all these different countries. So it was a wonderful event. And, people were bussed in and bussed out, and everything went smoothly, and it was amazing. And it was great. So, ultimately, True Mother's heart right now is she really wants us, the members, to be able to feel successful and victorious. At the same time, she obviously feels this need, this desire that we need to spread ourselves out. We need to give ourselves to the world. What we have, what we've been blessed with, is not for ourselves, but we are meant to share our blessing with people, to multiply goodness. The whole concept of 430 Messiahship is it's not just a number to get, but it's symbolic of the restoration, of moving from an individual to a family to a tribal level. And it isn't something that can be done methodically with only a formula, because ultimately it starts from inside our heart. And that is the challenge. So having said that, I want to reflect on a speech that True Mother gave. And this speech is in the second book. I get the name of it. The Pyeonghwa Gyeong. This particular book, the first book, is excerpts from True Father's speeches concerning different topics about God, about true parents, about Satan, about America, about many things. But this book is all speeches. These are whole speeches that are divided into different categories. Speeches that Father gave about America, speeches that Father gave about science, speeches that Father gave about God and the world, and so forth. This particular speech is of True Mother's speech. She gave this 7 days after True Father passed away. And so I want to look at some excerpts from this particular speech. Respected guests from home and abroad and beloved blessed families throughout the world, according to heavenly law, True Father will now make the spirit world his base and carry out the providence to expand Chanilguk while freely traveling between the spiritual and physical worlds. Now this speech is about 6 or 8 pages. This is just the last part of the speech after True Mother explained different things about Father's life. She was talking about why Father was special and unique, the unique and special things that he did while he was alive. Then she came to this part, talking about now Father will freely travel between the spiritual and physical world. True Father will come down to the physical world as the substantial being of the God of night, and shall preside over the providence in a state of oneness of heart, body, harmony, and mind with True Mother, who shall continue to preside over the providence on earth as the substantial being of the God of day. Through the victory of Foundation Day, Father will be with you in building the original Garden of Eden on earth. There is no stopping heaven's providence. So in this way, Mother's explained. Now, Father's in the spiritual world, but because of our victory, and she explained in this speech, because of the things that they accomplished together as the true parents, then Father will still be able to give his inspiration, his heart, his spirit, his love will still be present through True Mother. So Father is like the God of night, being in the spiritual world. Mother is like the God of day, being still present here in the physical world. So the presence of God will be able to still flow. Now when I read this and I look at this from the principal point of view, I don't think of this, I don't focus on the person of Father and the person of Mother, but I think of it as being a condition because of Father and Mother being the true parents, because of the love that they experienced and they lived all of their lives on this earth. Now the love of God, the Spirit of God, the heart of God, the body of God, the desire of God, everything that God wants to accomplish, God is free now to come to the earth and to manifest himself to us, to me, to you, inside of ourselves. At this new transition point in the historic providence, I want to make clear that I shall inherit True Father's victorious foundation and stand in the forefront to lead the providence on earth. In so doing, I would like to convey the following to everyone. First, we must absolutely value the tradition established by true parents as much as we value our own lives, and pass this down to our descendants the future generations. True parents establish the tradition of love and heart, the word and principles, the rules and regulations of our tradition, and the tradition of the culture of heart. So what is my responsibility? You know, as a member of this movement, what is my responsibility? To embody the love and heart, to know the word, the teaching, the truth, the principle, to follow certain standards, some rules and regulations concerning family life, and the tradition of the culture of heart. So this is saying, I have a responsibility to embody the love, the truth, the beauty, the goodness that true parents brought to us. This is my personal responsibility. Second, we must complete the ideal of the blessed family with which heaven has blessed us. The family is the cradle of true love, true life, and true lineage, and the basis upon which is realized the purpose God envisaged at the time of the creation. Based on the 8 verses of the family pledge, you should uphold the tradition of the absolutely good lineage with absolute faith. So the second thing, create families. Make families. The blessing is husband and wife become a family, and parents and children and grandchildren, uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews. And this includes, anyone in your family. This is not just you as a blessed couple and your immediate family. This is your parents who are not blessed, or who maybe even hate the church, or your uncles and your aunts who don't know anything about our movement. The family is all of these people. So individually, become one with God, God's love, God's truth, God's goodness. Then the family is our next step. Third, you have all received the blessing of being tribal messiahs. Thus you must work to fulfill that mission and responsibility until the time that Chanukuk is completed on earth. Tribal messiahship is the greatest of all blessings given to you by true parents, because fallen people could not be appointed tribal messiahs were it not for the foundation of victory in the providence of restoration through indemnity. That is why true parents have constantly emphasized the tribal messiah mission during their lifelong governance of the providence. First the individual, then the family. Then the next step is the concept of tribe. Tribe means reaching out a little further, okay? Perfect yourself. And of course, you make every effort in your family to love and to create a good family. But beyond that, living for the sake of others, living for the sake of the world, living for your community, living for your nation, living for your world. That's the challenge. That's the great challenge. But that's exactly who the Messiah is. The Messiah is the person who comes, and it isn't about his personal relationship with God. Like Jesus. Jesus was one with God, and he had a direct relationship with God. But he couldn't expand that to influence more than disciples. I mean, the Christianity all through this history has been a history of people focusing and following the teaching and the example of Jesus, and then going to God through Jesus. Because Jesus was the one who perfected his relationship with God. And all of us are fallen people, and without Christ as the mediator, we can't go to God. But when true parents came and they taught us, they said, no, first the individual, then the family. Now you reach out and you multiply goodness throughout the world. We have to save all mankind. Every person, every single person is valuable and precious. So True Mother is saying from the individual to the family, and this is the meaning of 430 tribal messiahship. We don't feel comfortable with it. because it's requiring us to always reach out a little bit further, always stretch ourselves a little bit more. Be aware of your neighbors. Be aware of your friends. Maybe even be aware of your enemies. Maybe, not maybe, but obviously, the Messiah comes to save fallen people. So we can't just remain in our own clique, in our own little group. We have to share our lives with other people. The whole idea of individual acts, kindness?
Love.
Individual acts of love, not kindness, the love.
Intentional.
Intentional acts of love. Intentional acts of love. All of Father's speeches, Father's whole life was being persecuted, suffering, sacrificing, but he was constantly pushing the providence from the individual to the family, from the family to the society, from the society to the culture, to the world, to the race, to every level, until finally he went into Russia. We went into Russia, shook hands with communists, lived there with them, and shared the principle with them. Father went back to North Korea, shook hands with Kim Il-sung, put his arm around him, loved him like a brother, became his father, even if he didn't recognize it. Father went full circle with his life, on every level, and he included everybody. He didn't exclude anyone, but wherever he went, he took all of us with him, and he took, Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam and liberals and conservatives and Democrats and Republicans, and it doesn't matter to Father, right? He just going along the providence and bringing everybody with him and loving everybody. That was his standard, his example. Fourth, all of us must create a community based on the culture of heart, characterized by harmony and unity with true parents and the true family at the center. Each of you, without exception, found the path of God's will because you were chosen by heaven, because of the merits of your ancestors and because of your own character. So Mother is recognizing each of us. We were chosen by God. We were chosen by God. We were blessed in a special way. The whole world is completely unaware. Even right now, here we are sitting in this room, in the middle of a state of 10 million people. How many people think the way we think, or try to understand the way we understand, or relate to God the way we relate to God, or to Jesus, or to the identity of Satan, or whatever? But here we are. So Mother recognizes each of us is special because we were chosen by heaven, because of the merits of your ancestors and because of your own character. You faced immeasurable persecution in order to follow true parents until entering this realm of victory today. We've entered this together with true parents. We did it. We did it. This is the did. This is the did. We did do it. That makes us all part of a single family, a community of heart centered on one parent. Division and conflict continue to afflict the world, but the unification family can become brothers and sisters who can easily transcend race, national borders, and any other barrier. If you can show an exemplary life of giving and live for the sake of others, this dream will surely come true. Especially as we are in this time of great transition in the providence, I ask that you bear this in mind and engrave in your hearts that we must become one with true parents. Becoming one with true parents. Father was so confident. Father was so bold. He never let himself become depressed for any more than a few moments, or for, he passed through. Can you imagine knowing the divine principle and knowing that God is depending on you to teach the whole world this truth about Satan, about Jesus, about everything, and you find yourself in a communist prison camp in North Korea, being starved to death and being exposed to the elements and having nobody and no one believing in you, being told time and time again, you know, you're a failure, you're nothing, you're nobody, you're no good, you're worthless. You know, you fool, you idiot. Who do you think you are, you stupid Korean man? You know, can you imagine? Father, nothing but his personal faith and living in this tragic situation. You know, amazing. And then 2 years and 8 months going through that. And then coming out and step by step, stage by stage, day by day. How remarkable. You know? And then, I mean, we don't even meet Father until the 1970s. How much he went through personally. Even before 1960, becoming true parents. Even before coming to this country. And then we are the witness. We join this church, and then all of this stuff going on, the persecution, you know, the Time magazine, the Newsweek, I remember everything on the TV, you know, all the where you're all brainwashed, you know, it's a sex cult, you're brainwashed, you know, and etc., etc., etc. How remarkable, you know, and yet Father constantly educating us, teaching us, from early morning till late at night, praying and speaking and teaching, explaining, educating us about the truth of the principle. Gosh, it's really remarkable. What a life. And so here we are. We're, you know, everything that Father did and true parents did, they just want to give it to us. They want us to no, we are victorious. Yes, we have difficulties in our families, in our personal life. Each one of us can look into our own hearts and see, you know, strange things or bad things or things we could be ashamed of. We could accuse our family members. We can accuse each other of lots of different things. But that's not the way of true parents. That's not the way of God. You know, if you read Father's speeches and you look at the times that he, you know, chastised us or he spoke strongly to us, it was always, you know, he was with us, and it was so that he would bring us with him to do all of these things that had to be done. It wasn't because he was trying to push us away. He was just trying to make us feel the seriousness of a situation so that we could share the burden with him. I know we share a heavy burden. All of us in this room. Some of us share a burden heavier than others. But think about the world out there. Some of the burdens that some people out there are carrying. It's, you know, it's shameful and sad. It breaks your heart. Sometimes I get filled with fear. Sometimes I get depressed. You know, people talk about, you know, going through depression and, you know, going through, what is it? People get clinically depressed. You know, they can't even get out of bed in the morning and things, and then they end up going to the doctor gives them drugs, they start their life of drugs. You know, they start living on pills. Probably what happened to Prince. I'm not sure. There's all different stories about him. But the point is, I don't know, maybe I'm clinically depressed. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm insane. I don't know. But the power of the principle, the power of true parents, the power of God's love, if we really pray, really connect to it, and we can grow. We can grow to become God's true sons and true daughters. So I know everyone in this room, okay? We all have something we could complain about or something we could be very depressed about. But don't lose hope. Don't lose faith. Don't lose trust. Because God is with us. God is with each of us. And God is with every one of our family members. Be they still here with us or not. Whether they're here or there. God is with everyone. We have to believe in the foundation, the victory of true parents. True Father in the spirit world is always with us. He exists without corporal form. But He will never leave our sides even for a moment. What do you think He desires from us at this time? It is to march forward without pausing. God's providence must continue until all people are centered on true parents and a culture of heart overflowing with love and peace takes root, establishing a new order. So God's providence must continue until all people are centered on true parents and a culture of heart overflowing with love and peace takes root. So it doesn't mean centered on true parents like worshiping true parents, or, like sometimes Christians put Jesus in that position. No, it means centering on the concept and the idea of becoming true parents and establishing a culture of heart overflowing with love and peace takes root. Moreover, on the basis of the victory of Foundation Day, we should further advance to offer great glory to heaven and to true parents, and to instill great hope in the world to continue throughout history. Give the world hope. Give the world hope. Give the world confidence. We are the people who should be in the position to do that. And what better way to do that if people also know, I feel your pain. How many times do we talk to each other? I feel your pain, brother. I know what, been there, done that. Yeah, we feel the pain. We're not any different. We're not any better than anyone else. We are the world. We are the world. We are the children. It's the same. But God gave us the responsibility to go through the process first. Doesn't make us better. It just makes us first. That's all. It just makes us become the example, and then we have to bring people with us. Bring them. Help them. Share with them. Beloved members, I shall be faithful to True Father's life and tradition. He set the example for us and led by example his entire life, doing his absolute best to achieve victory in the providence. The requests I have conveyed to you today are True Father's last words as he was departing for the spirit world. I don't know exactly what Mother means by that. If Father actually said to her, this is what I want you to tell the members, just, make sure they know this. Or if she's speaking a little bit more metaphorically, that in the last days she was with Father conveyed this to her. And so now she's putting it into words. But clearly, to address certain issues today, this is not, the directions of someone who is trying to separate us from True Father's legacy or history or intention or purpose. This is a person that's encouraging us and challenging us to follow True Father's standard. Follow his entire, he led by example his entire life, doing his absolute best to achieve victory in the providence. Could Father have made mistakes along the way? Yeah, of course. Why not? That's who the Messiah is. He's a person, a human being who has to take responsibility for God's providence. Father's family make mistakes along the way, of course. Us, yeah. Everybody gonna screw up and fall down. And then we have to pick up and try again. It's not ever going to be over. It's not going to be over until we're all in the kingdom of heaven. The requests I have conveyed to you today are True Father's last words as he was departing for the spirit world. I sincerely pray that you will engrave them deeply in your hearts and that you will all become victorious. I pray that God's blessing and love will be forever with you, your families, and your nations. Thank you very much. These are Father's words. Father's words. God's words. Very simple, very clear. Individually, become the true son or true daughter. Do as best as you can. Your family. Make your family a heavenly family. And then reach out. Reach out in the darkness. And you may find a friend. Share. You've got to step out. Don't just, have a good family and stay in your own home. But wherever you're working, whoever you meet when you're grocery shopping, whatever hobbies you have, all of these things, and you share with others. But the final thing was what? The fourth thing was us as the unification movement. Really loving each other. Mother really was asking us to really love each other. She didn't just say true parents, she said true parents and true family. Because True Parents family is our family. And we are True Parents family. And the world is True Parents family. One family. It's all family. Family, family, family. Everything that happens is about family, family, family. So whoever's out there is part of your family. That's the way we have to think. That's how True Father thought. True Father was able to have a heart where he related to everybody as if they were his brother or his sister or, his son or daughter. That's the definition of the true parents. The core definition of true parents is you're my son or daughter. And we have to have that heart. From that heart, everything else comes out. From that heart comes, bringing people to Washington, D.C., September 18th. From that heart comes everything else. But we should be clear. The Yankee Stadium Festival, the events that took place 40 years ago, so I was there. I was somewhere up in one of these third stages, these third levels. I remember how it was just, a strange situation. Up until that time, we had been going into halls, and we'd been listening to Father speak, and, people would come and there was no room for people. It was always overflow wherever Father spoke by this time. And, we were in a hall and then Father would speak and people would sit there and listen. But suddenly we were in this stadium and people all over running around, yelling and screaming. All these kids out there trying to pop the balloons and, fighting with each other and throwing bottles at each other. I mean, it's a miracle of God that someone didn't get thrown off one of these tiers. And I mean, it really is a miracle. And I remember, gosh, I'm thinking, what is going on? Nobody's listening to Father's speech. At least where I was at, people were talking and everything. And then I just, and it's raining and so forth. I just remembered thinking, well, if they're not going to listen, at least I am. And I went up to the very front and I just started focusing and listening and supporting, yeah, Father, that kind of spirit, And that's what Father wanted. That's what Father needed. But Washington Monument was very different. It was such it was just like a festival. It was a festival. People coming. And in the beginning, I remember hearing the stories of the people that lived in Washington, D.C. They had arranged for all these buses to travel through these different parts of Washington. And they were supposed to pick up people and bring them to the festival. Well, our members would get on the bus because they were going to be the bus captain, and they would start to go to the festival, and they would come to these different bus stops, and no one was there. And they started getting nervous. And the bus would be running, getting closer and closer and closer to the Washington Monument, and their buses were empty. Nobody was on the buses. And then suddenly the buses arrive, and they see this huge mass of people, and they're wondering, WTF? Where'd they come from? You know? And what had happened is, people in Washington, D.C., especially in the areas where they had these buses, they don't ride buses. Not from those particular areas, so they weren't, you know. So a lot of people just got in their cars, you know, and they drove to the monument grounds. Plus, we were bringing busloads of people from Philadelphia, from Delaware, from New York, from Chicago, even from Florida. You know, busloads and busloads of people were coming from everywhere. And so in the end, they were there, the thousands of people. And Father gave his speech, and it was a totally and completely victorious event. You know, and we were there. We did it. This is the did. Believe in the did. You know where that comes from? Last night we were driving home, and Sharon and I were having this conversation, and we were talking, and suddenly it came to my mind. I said, well, what about, you know, we were talking about we've got to do this, and these things still have to be done. And I said, well, what about what we did? And I said, what about the did? The did, where does the did fit in? And of course, my wife is, you know, she's a very reasonable person, and she said, you know, we can't just think about what we did in the past. We have to be going forward. We have to be going on. I said, yeah, that's true. It's true. But if we don't understand, or if we don't value what we've already done, what is real, what is actual history, what has actually been done, if we don't value that, why should you think we're going to value what we do a few weeks from now? Because by the time we get there, you're still going to be going, well, we still have to do this, we still have to do that, constantly living in the future, instead of recognizing the did. Of course, you know, the point is we aren't finished. You know, God isn't finished with us yet. The providence is advancing. But I want us to really feel we are not in this alone. This is not just the Unification Church doing this. This is something much more. The providence is advancing far beyond the limitations of the unification movement because of God and because of true parents. So let us have absolute confidence and be clear. You know, the blessing. You know, on the foundation of Father's victories, he began giving the blessing to all of us and blessing the world. And ultimately meeting and sharing. And remember, the reason I chose this slide is because True Mother and True Father together. Is that True Mother? Or is that Mrs. Kim? That wasn't his wife, was it?
It's True Mother.
Yeah, okay. No, it's a funny picture. Yeah, he was. Where was his wife at the time? You know? Strange man. But they were together. You know, true parents did this together. And even now, okay, you know, we can be critical. We can say, oh, Mother, you should do it this way, you should do it that way. That's okay. You know, have your own opinion. But deep down inside, internally, I think it's very clear that True Mother is making a sincere effort. You know, again, going back to our conference in Las Vegas, you know, I really felt, you know, the IPEC Center, for example, it's not just there for us. They're using it. They have wedding ceremonies there. They have all these different groups coming in and renting the place. So it's a place that's being used for the public purpose. And so people are actually coming, every day people walk in off the streets and say, hey, you know, is this place for rent? Or, you know, and they had this huge, these people designing clothes. They wanted to have a place where they could show all of their new designs in private, because they have a lot of, secret designs. And so they rented the IPEX Center, So in this way, the IPEX Center is being used to witness to people, bringing people even off the streets. And it's there to make money, to make a little bit of profit. And it's been paid for. And it's a beautiful thing. And then True Mother, instead of living in that house, she just, if she comes to live, she lives in the IPEX Center, in a room there. And the house she turned the house over to the cart members to be used for Sunday service and to have our second gen be able to witness and work there. And right now, Andrew Compton, one of our elder brothers, is teaching the Divine Principle lectures, special 3-day seminars and 7-day seminars. And so this effort to help us, I really feel that, True Mother's heart is she wants to encourage us and to help us. And yes, sometimes it comes across as being, kind of, we've got to get these people at this particular time. But it's deeper than that. So please, I hope all of us here, first and foremost, realize, yes, our lives are not pretty, are not always smooth, but that's the way life is, because life is a challenge and not always easy. But in the end, if we really know the principle, we know that we have eternal life in the spiritual world, that God is our eternal parent, that the principle itself is correct and true, that we have these true parents who have already done 99% of the work for us. All we have to do now is reach out and share intentional acts of love. Every day, sharing a little bit more. And then God will be with us. God will bless us. God will work in our situation. So the conclusion is this motto for the next 4 years. Let us become true owners of Chanyeolgeuk, who practice true love in resemblance to our Creator. So we have to resemble God. Resembling God means I become my true self. I become my true self. Not my false self, not my pretend self, but a true self. And that's not easy. It's not easy. We have to be accountable. We have to be open, transparent, sincere, honest, and share with each other. Share our challenges and our difficulties. And then we can pray for each other and support each other. God is real. The spiritual world is real. This world is not, a material. The material is not subject in this world. The things that we see with our eyes and the events that take place externally, or the things that are reported to us in the media, for God's sakes, that's not the big picture. It's not the big picture. The big picture is much deeper and much more profound than anything any media could ever report to us. So we always are only getting bits and pieces. And this is true concerning our own lives and our relationships with each other. We don't know everything that we're going through. So be prayerful and be humble and be open. And when in doubt, love. When in doubt, just love. Hey, sorry, I don't understand it all. I'll pray for. I love you. I love you. God loves us. Don't worry, God loves us. Somehow, it's going to get right. All right, let us pray. Our Heavenly Parent, I just pray that these words came from True Mother just 7 days after True Father went to the spiritual world. Help us to remember that we are living a multi-dimensional life. That this is not just about the moment that we're in. It's not just about our circumstance or our situation personally, but it's about a providence. It's about an entire world that is the birthing place, the womb for people to enter into their eternal life in the spiritual world. So we are being challenged. We are being sometimes challenged and struck, and we are going through difficulties and hardships because we are being asked to grow up and to grow our hearts and to learn how to love, even under difficult circumstances. Even under suffering circumstances, we are being asked to think beyond ourselves, to see the bigger picture. Thank you that you educate us this way. I pray for every brother and sister here, every member, every person, that you can touch their lives and bless them in a special way for the rest of this week and the rest of their lives. Thank you for your patience with us. You have incredible patience for all of fallen mankind. And still, you meticulously trying to take care of us and never, ever interfering in our own responsibility to discover and to grow and become our own selves and to take ownership. You want us to own our lives and our path and our result. And you've given us the example of true parents that shows us the way. Thank you. We pray for True Mother and her responsibilities. Pray for people like our elder brothers and sisters in the headquarters staff and the young second gen in headquarters. They're making an effort to try to help us and communicate with us and share with us the bigger visions of this providence. We just pray for all nations that they can be victorious. And here in America, we really pray for this nation, that people can rise up and do the right thing. And we see it happening all around us. In every field, there are people rising up to stand up for that which is true and good. Thank you. We offer our prayers to you and report these things as Blessed Central families, in our names as Blessed Central families. Amen and amen.